Welcome in, everybody, to Mile High Territory. I'm Ryan Spilborghs. I'm going to run this one solo because it's fun. I don't need anybody here. Okay, let's get into the Rockies and the Dodgers about this series in LA. It's been really, really fun for us for a whole bunch of reasons. On Monday, the Rockies, they lost kind of a heartbreaker. They were down 6-1. They come from behind. They end up taking the lead, and then they lose in extra innings. But during that game, on Monday, we had an interaction between Cole Carrigg and Dalton Rushing. And for the Rockies, since we've seen Cole Carrigg join the Rockies, it's been a pleasure to watch. He is tooled up. He can run. He's hit for power. He already has 13 extra base hits. With the home runs, the triples, the doubles, and then he's shown off his arm in center field. He also does a couple things that, make you scratch your head at times. He plays with his hair on fire, which we love to see. He's made some mistakes on the base paths. He's made some mistakes in the outfield. That's okay. He's a young player. But what's exciting about him, and something that I've talked about in the broadcast, is he's an edge player that the Rockies have not had in a long time. And I go back to my playing time, and we had players like Yorvi Torrealba, Troy Tulowitzki, guys that played with a fire, with an edge. You go back to Yorvi Torrealba getting a fight with Matt Kemp at home plate, which was great because that's something that doesn't happen. Now, I'm not encouraging fighting by any means. What I am saying is that it's nice when you have players that don't back down. That was something about Tulo that made him so unique, was that he was the best player on the field, played his tail off, and then he also had this air about him where he wasn't going to back down. He was not going to take anything from anybody. And go back to Nolan Arenado was the same way. He ran out there. Nolan ran out to try to go get a pitcher, if you remember that, when he was hit by a pitch. I believe it was the San Francisco Giants. It might have been the Padres. I don't quite remember. But Nolan ran out there. And basically says, hey, we don't take this. I don't take this from anybody. And so with Cole, he ends up sliding in at home plate in the 10th inning and slides into Dalton Rushing. And Danny Iasonia, who's the umpire at that time, was also in the way too. And so as Cole slides hard into home plate, he kind of takes a tumble. It looks pretty bad. He's fine, but as he's getting up, he's like, bro, why are you even there? Well, Dalton Rushing, who's kind of similar to Cole Carrigg, he doesn't take anything from anybody either. And so you get these two collisions between these two guys, and they start barking at each other, which is awesome because you have to have that edge. You have to. I don't mind it. More players around the league that have this edge. I'll give you some examples. Jose Caballero with the New York Yankees, he's one of those guys that gets under your skin, but his teammates love him. And you love these type of players because they stick up for the team. You see it with Josh Naylor with the Seattle Mariners. This guy is just kind of plays the game, plays it hard, frustrates other teams, but at the same time, he's your guy. And so for the Rockies to finally get, and I'm not saying finally, but I'm saying to have an edge player like this, it is great. And it coincides with what we've seen now with the Rockies for the last month. They're playing good baseball. They really are. And then you get into the 8th and 9th inning, which the Rockies have already set a franchise record before the All-Star break in scoring runs late in games. They do not quit, which I hear from Warren Schaefer all the time. Yeah, our guys never quit. Hats off to them. Kudos. But at the same time, he's right. The numbers back it up. The Rockies turn into the Goonies, and I've been joking around, they're the Gremlins. After the 8th inning, they turn into these monsters. And for the Rockies on Tuesday night, they end up coming from behind in what ends up being just a great baseball play. First and third, I believe it was one out. Hunter Goodman, who has been out because he had a collision at home plate on Monday with Dalton Rushing as well, sliding into home on a Kyle Carrow's double, which ended up, basically giving the Rockies the lead in this case. So Goodman goes down. He had to get X-rays yesterday, comes back negative, and so you think maybe the Rockies would pinch hit Hunter Goodman for Jake McCarthy. So Jake McCarthy was going to hit left on left against Jack Dreyer. Ends up that Jake, with first and third, he drops a drag bunt down. He drops a bunt towards Max Muncy. Tyler Freeman, who's the trail runner at first, he rounds second and sees that Jack Dreyer never covered third while he was going for that play. So they record the out at first. The run scores, but then Tyler Freeman takes off, and he's in a foot race with Miguel Vargas. The throw goes wide, ball goes into the dugout, and the Rockies take a 4-3 lead. The thing that's amazing is that the Dodgers were basically 55-0 heading into the eighth inning with the lead. And so the Rockies come from behind. They win at Dodger Stadium after a crushing loss the night before. And what's amazing about this one specifically is that it's the first time the Rockies have won at Dodger Stadium since September of 2024. Yeah, it was 11 consecutive losses for the Rockies at Dodger Stadium, which is just remarkable. And so last night, after the game, I mean, it was a celebration in there. And part of it, too, it's not just that the Dodgers are now looking at the Rockies, because before, I mean, like, honestly, last year, like, you could put dead bodies on the Dodgers and they would have beat the Rockies at Dodger Stadium. It was just last year, it's not even a thought to the guys in the clubhouse anymore. Last year is not even the same team. This version of the Rockies, though, is starting to get some respect around the league, and specifically the Dodgers. Dodgers are looking at the Rockies right now going like, okay, that's different. They're pitching better. They're playing better. Their offense is much, much better. Even though they punched out still 11 times last night, it might have even been 12. The at-bat quality from start to finish is so much better. And a big part of that is looking at guys like Jake McCarthy, Kyle Carrigg, who I'm going to break down his swing a little bit later on in a future podcast, has made these great adjustments at the plate. Jake McCarthy's made great adjustments. He's hitting for power. It's the most home runs he's ever hit. He's also getting a chance to play. The adjustment for Kyle Carrigg, getting a wider base with his stance, much more in his legs, lower in his hands, which allow him to get to slot. He's been slugging at a very high clip, much higher than I ever thought Kyle Carrigg was going to slug. When we first saw Kyle Carrigg, I mean, he was not impacting the baseball. He was taking his walks, but he wasn't impacting the baseball. There wasn't like driving the ball out of the yard, not like we've seen in the last month for Kyle Carrigg. And again, like for us, since we do these games every single night and we've watched this journey, you can see it. And I can see it from Rockies fans. It's been really fun. The Rock Show, this version, is easy to root for. They're young. There's an edge to them. They got a player now that won't back down. It is great. And I could see it from the other side this week, where the Dodgers are looking at the Rockies, not just putting a W for the Dodgers. It is going like, oh, we're in a fight now. These guys are going to fight us. Doesn't mean that they're going to beat us every time, but it's not going to be a walk in the park. Not going to be a walk in the park. And with Carrigg, to have this type of player, it resonates in the clubhouse. And the thing that stands out too, because a player like this, you know, usually you try to almost contain him a little bit. Hey, like relax with all the extra stuff that you're doing. You don't have to snap every time. No, here you let him go. And what the Rockies clubhouse has done, and even Michael Lorenzen talked to it about it with Corey Sullivan last night, is making sure the clubhouse is allowing these players to just be free and to just play their game. You're going to correct the mistakes. Base running mistakes you can correct. Outfield mistakes, missing a cutoff man or trying to overthrow, you can correct that. That's not a problem. But to allow your personality to truly be its personality, to be out there, that is something where you don't want to have to correct that. You don't want to have to correct it. I'll give you the example. Like Pete Crow Armstrong, very similar to Cole Carrigg. High energy, high skill set. You can't take your eyes off him when he plays. But in the case of Pete Crow Armstrong, you know, he's a very young player, snapped a bunch, right? Like he was throwing his helmet all the time. That's also part of his game. He gets really frustrated when he doesn't come through. There was a story about how, there was a kid in Chicago, and the kid's playing Little League Baseball, and he snaps and he throws his helmet, and his dad's like, hey, no, we do not do that. And he goes, well, Pete Crow Armstrong does it. And so Pete Crow Armstrong ended up hearing about this story, and he was like, I got to be a little bit more reserved, because there are kids watching. That is a self-correction. That is not a teammate going, whoa, dude, stop. And I think the same thing's going to happen with Cole. You're just going to let him play. Let him do his thing. Be the wild horse, or like Warren Schaefer calls him, a colt. Play like the colt that you are. Go out there, play the game the way you know it. We'll refine the smaller details. We'll refine, reading swings in the outfield. We'll refine everything that you do, but don't lose that edge, because you can't make it up. If you don't have that, then, and that's not part of your personality, you can't automatically create some fake persona to become that. He is naturally a high-energy, edgy player. He's always been that way. Allow it to happen. And for Rockies fans to watch it, you're like, hell yeah, we got one. We got one. So that is great. The other thing I want to touch on is last night we saw Shohei Ohtani hit his 300th Major League home run, which is just incredible. 112-mile-an-hour line drive out of the ballpark. And I just marvel at watching him play. I can't say it enough. We are legitimately watching the greatest baseball player in the history of the game. It's not even up for debate. You have somebody that's won multiple MVPs, multiple World Series. He was a top 5 Cy Young Award finisher in 2023. He's going to pitch on Friday. He's gunning for a Cy Young. He's pitching at the same time that he's hitting. Babe Ruth never did that. So, people that do compare him to Babe Ruth, he's non-comparable. Can't do it. Yes, Babe Ruth pitched, and then he hit. He never did both at the same time. Ohtani's doing both at the exact same time, which seems impossible, because it is. And for Ohtani, now 300 career homers, you can already, if he retired today, he's a Hall of Famer. No question. He's the inner circle Hall of Famer, because nobody's done this. Nobody will do this. He's an unbelievable athlete. He's strong as heck. And then he's one of the hardest pitchers in baseball to hit. If he was just a pitcher, he'd be an elite pitcher. He'd be one of the best starters in baseball. But he's already an elite hitter, and he's an elite pitcher. It's just insane. And I know people get exhausted about hearing, stop telling me that this is the greatest player that's ever walked. I can make the decision on my own. I'm telling you, based on stats, based on history, based on the body of work, based on the player and the skill set, I can't say it enough. This is the greatest player you will ever see in your lifetime. There won't be another Ohtani. There might be another guy that's a two-way player, but there's no way that you're going to have a player that's as impactful two ways as Shohei Ohtani. It's just impossible. It's a once in a lifetime. He really is. You're not going to see somebody match him for MVPs, match him for power, match him for speed, match him for pitching and being an elite pitcher. It's just not going to happen, even down the road. Even as we see athletes getting bigger, faster, stronger, which is the case we make with Ohtani, is you can't compare him now to former athletes, because athletes over the last 50 years have gotten better, bigger, faster, stronger. You see this in the World Cup right now. There's countries and players that are better than 25 years ago, and that's just evolution of an athlete. And so watching Ohtani and knowing even in the future, if you were to create a lab version of Ohtani to put up the same numbers that he does, it's not going to happen. Not going to happen. So there's my 2 cents on that one. But it's been really fun to watch The Rock Show. Hopefully you're enjoying it. Hopefully you're enjoying this Mile High Territory. And then send in any questions. We'll be back at it on Friday. Looking forward to it. And we'll certainly get you caught up right before we head into the All-Star break.